हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू द लाइव सेशन। तो आज हम पढ़ेंगे एनसीईआरटी हिस्ट्री क्लास 12 का पार्ट 2 का बुक, जिसमें हम देखेंगे थीम 9 किंग्स एंड क्रॉनिकल्स द मुगल कोर्ट्स 16 to 17 सेंचुरीज। तो शुरू करते हैं। The rulers of the Mughal Empire saw themselves as appointed by the divine will to rule over a large and heterogeneous populace. Although this Although this grand vision was often circumscribed by actual political circumstances, it remained important. One way of transmitting this vision was through the writing of dynastic histories. The Mughal kings commissioned court historians to write accounts. These accounts recorded the events of emperor's times. In addition, their writers collected vast amounts of information from the regions of the subcontinent to help the rulers govern their domain. Modern historians writing in English have termed this genre of text chronicles, as they present a continuous chronological record of events. Chronicles are indispensable source for any scholar wishing to write a history of the Mughals. At one level, they were a repository of factual information about the institutions of the Mughal state, painstakingly collected and classified by individuals closely connected with the court. At the same time, these texts were intended as conveyors of meanings that the Mughal rulers sought to impose on their domain. They therefore give us a glimpse into how imperial ideologies were created and disseminated. This chapter will look at the working of this rich and fascinating dimension of the Mughal Empire. The Mughal and their empire. The name Mughal derives from Mongol. Though today the term evokes the grandeur of an empire, it was not the name the rulers of the dynasty chose for themselves. They referred to themselves as Timurids, as descendants of the Turkish ruler Timur. On the paternal side, Babur, the first Mughal ruler, was related to Genghis Khan from his mother's side. He spoke Turkish and referred derivatives to the Mongols and as barbaric hordes. During the 16th century, Europeans used the term Mughal to describe the Indian rulers of this branch of the family. Over the past centuries, the word has been frequently used. Even the name Mowgli, the young hero of Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book, is derived from it. The empire was carved out of a number of regional states of India through conquest and political alliances between the Mughals and the local chieftains. The founder of the empire, Jahiruddin Babur, was derived from his Central Asian homeland Fargana by the warring Uzbeks. He first established himself at Kabul and then in 1526 pushed further into the Indian subcontinent in search of territories and resources to satisfy the needs of the members of his clan. His successor Nasir-ud-Din Humayun expanded the frontiers of the empire but lost it to the Afghan leader Sher Shah Sur, who drove him into exile. Humayun took refuge in the court of Safavid ruler of Iran. In 1555, Humayun defeated the Surs but died a year later. Many consider Jalaluddin Akbar the greatest of all Mughal emperors, for he not only expanded but also consolidated his empire, making it the largest, strongest, and richest kingdom of his time. Akbar succeeded in extending the frontiers of the empire to the Hindu Kush mountains and checked the expansionist designs of the Uzbeks of Turan and the Safavids of Iran. Akbar had three fairly able successors in Jahangir, Shahjahan, and Aurangzeb, much as their characters varied. Under them, the territorial expansion continued, though at much reduced pace. The three rulers maintained and consolidated the various instruments of governance. During the 16th and 17th centuries, the institutions of an imperial structures were created. These included effective methods of administration and taxation. The visible centers of Mughal power was the court. Here, political alliances and relationships were forged, status and hierarchies defined. The political system devised by the Mughals was based on the combination of military power and conscious policy to accommodate the different traditions they encountered in the subcontinent. After 1707, following the death of Aurangzeb, the power of the dynasty diminished. In place of the vast apparatus of the empire controlled from Delhi, Agra, or Lahore, the different capital cities' regional power acquired greater autonomy. Yet, symbolically, the prestige of the Mughal ruler did not lose its aura. In 1857, the last scion of this dynasty, Bahadur Shah Jafar II, was overthrown by the British. The production of chronicles. Chronicles commissioned by the Mughal emperors are an important source of studying the empire and its courts. They were written in order to project a vision of an enlightened kingdom to all those who came under its umbrella. At the same time, they were meant to convey to those who resisted the rule of Mughals that all resistance was destined to fail. Also, the rulers wanted to ensure that there was an account of their rule for posterity. The authors of Mughal chronicles were invariably courtiers. The histories they wrote focused on events centered on the rulers, his family, the court, and the nobles, wars, and administrative arrangements. Their titles, such as Akbarnama, Shahjahannama, Alamgirnama, that is, the story of Akbar, Shahjahan, and Alamgir, a title of the Mughal ruler Aurangzeb, suggests that in the eyes of their authors, the history of the empire and the court was synonymous with that of the emperor. From Turkish to Persian. Mughal court chronicles were written in Persian under the sultans of Delhi. It flourished as a language of the court and of literary writings alongside North Indian languages, especially Hindavi and its regional variants. As the Mughals were Chagatai Turks by origin, Turkish was their mother tongue. Their first ruler, Babur, wrote poetry and his memoirs in this language. Chagatai Turks traced descent from the eldest son of Genghis Khan. It was Akbar who consequently set out to make Persian the leading language of the Mughal court. Cultural and intellectual context with Iran, as well as regular stream of Iranian and Central Asian migrants seeking position at the Mughal court, might have motivated the emperor to adopt the language. Persian was elevated to a language of empire, conferring power and prestige on those who had a command of it. It was spoken by the king, the royal household, and the elite at the court. Further, it became the language of administration at all levels, so that accountant, clerks, and other functionaries also learned it. Even when Persian was not directly used, its vocabulary and idiom heavily influenced the language of official records in Rajasthani and Marathi, and even Tamil. Since the people using Persian in the 16th and 17th century came from many different regions of the subcontinent and spoke other Indian languages, Persian too became Indianized by absorbing local idioms. A new language, Urdu, sprang from the interaction of Persian with Hindavi. Mughal chronicles such as the Akbarnama were written in Persian. Others, like Babur's memoirs, were translated from Turkish into the Persian Babarnama. Translation of Sanskrit texts such as the Mahabharata and the Ramayana into Persian were commissioned by the Mughal emperors. The Mahabharata was translated as Razmanama, Book of Wars. The flight of the written word. In Abul Fazl's words, the written word may embody the wisdom of bygone ages and may become a means to intellectual progress. The spoken word goes to the heart of those who are present to hear it. The written word gives wisdom to those who are near and far. If it was not for the written word, the spoken word would soon die, and no keepsake would be left us from those who are passed away. Superficial observers see in the letter a dark figure, but the deep sighted see in it a lamp of wisdom. Chirage Sihansai. The written verse looks black, not withstanding the thousand rays within it, or it is a light with a mole on it that wards off the evil eye. A letter, Khat, is the portrait of wisdom, a rough sketch from the realm of ideas, a dark light ushering in day, a black cloud pregnant with knowledge, speaking though dumb, stationary yet travelling, stretched on the seat and yet soaring upwards. The making of manuscripts. All books in Mughal India were manuscripts, that is, they were handwritten. The center of manuscript production was the imperial Kitab Khana. Although Kitab Khana can be translated as library, it was a scriptorium, that is, a place where the emperor's collection of manuscript was kept and new manuscripts were produced. The creation of manuscript involved a number of people performing a variety of tasks. Paper makers were needed to prepare the folios of the manuscript, scribes or calligraphers to copy the text, gliders to illuminate the pages, painters to illustrate scenes from text, bookbinders to gather the individual folios and set them within ornamental covers. The finished manuscript was seen as a precious object, a work of intellectual wealth and beauty. It exemplified the power of his patron, the Mughal emperor, to bring such beauty into being. At the same time, some of the people involved in the actual production of the manuscript also got recognition in the form of titles and awards. Of these, calligraphers and painters held a high social standing, while others, such as paper makers or bookbinders, have remained anonymous artisans. Calligraphy, the art of handwriting, was considered a skill of great importance. It was practiced using different styles. Akbar's favorite was the Nakhtalik, a fluid style with long horizontal strokes. It is written using a piece of trimmed reed with a tip of 5 to 10 mm called kalam dipped in carbon ink siahi. The nib of the kalam is usually split in the middle to facilitate the absorption of ink. The painted ink, the painted image. As we read in the previous section, painters too were involved in the production of Mughal manuscripts. Chronicles narrating the events of Mughal emperors reign contained alongside the written text images that described an event in visual form. When scenes or themes in a book were to be given visual expression, the scribe left blank spaces on nearby pages. Paintings executed separately by artists were inserted to accompany what was described in words. These paintings were miniatures and could therefore be passed around for viewing and mounting on the pages of manuscripts. Paintings served not only to enhance the beauty of a book but were believed to possess special powers of communicating ideas about the kingdom and the power of kings in ways that the written medium could not. The historian Abul Fazl described painting as a magical art. In his view, it has had the power to make inanimate objects look as if they possessed life. The production of paintings portraying the emperor, his courts, and the people who were part of it was a source of constant tension between rulers and representatives of Muslim orthodoxy. The ulama, the latter did not fail to invoke the Islamic prohibition of the portrayal of human beings enshrined in the Quran as well as the Hadith, which described an incident from the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Here, the Prophet is cited as having forbidden the depiction of living beings in a naturalistic manner, as it would suggest that the artist was seeking to appropriate the power of creation. This was a function that was believed to belong exclusively to God. in praise of Tasveer. Abul Fazl held the art of painting in high esteem. Drawing the likeness of the anything is called tasveer. His Majesty from his earliest youth has shown a great predilection for this art and gives it every encouragement as he looks upon it as a means both of study and amusement. A very large number of painters have been set to work. Each week, several supervisors and clerks of the imperial workshop submit before the emperor the works done by each artist, and His Majesty gives a reward and increases the monthly salaries of the artist according to the excellence displayed. Most excellent painters are now to be found, and masterpieces worthy of a behest may be placed at the side of the wonderful works of the European painters who have attained worldwide fame. The minuteness in details, the general finish, and the boldness of execution now observed in pictures are incomparable. If an inanimate object looks as if they have life, more than 100 painters have become famous masters of the art. This is especially true of the Hindu artists. Their pictures surpass our conception of things. Few indeed in the whole world are found equal to them. Yet, interpretation of the Sharia changed with time. The body of Islamic tradition was interpreted in different ways by various social groups. Frequently, each group put forward an understanding of tradition that would best suit their political needs. Muslim rulers in many Asian regions during centuries of empire building regularly commissioned artists to paint their portraits and scenes of life in their kingdoms. The Safavid kings of Iran, for example, patronized the finest artists who were trained in workshops set up at court. The names of painters, such as that of Behest, contributed to spreading the cultural fame of the Safavid court far and wide. Artists from Iran also made their way to Mughal India. Some were brought to the Mughal court, as in the case of Mir Sayyid Ali and Abdus Samad, who were made to accompany Emperor Humayun to the Delhi. Others migrated in search of opportunity to win patronage and prestige. A conflict between the emperor and the spokesman of Orthodox Muslim opinion on the question of visual representation of living beings was a source of tension at the Mughal court. Akbar's court historian Abul Fazl cites the emperor as saying, "There are many that hate painting, but such men I dislike. It appears to me that an artist has a unique way to recognizing God when he must come to feel that he cannot bestow life on his work." The Akbarnama and the Badshahnama. Among the important illustrated Mughal chronicles, the Akbarnama and the Badshahnama, the chronicle of a king, are the most well known. Each manuscript contains an average of 150 full or double page paintings of battles, sieges, hunts, building construction, court scenes, etc. The author of the Akbarnama, Abul Fazl, grew up in the Mughal capital of Agra. He was widely read in Arabic, Persian, Greek philosophy, and Sufism. Moreover, he was a forceful debater and independent thinker who consistently opposed the views of the conservative ulama. These qualities impressed Akbar, who found Abul Fazl ideally suited as an advisor and a spokesperson for his policy. One major objective of the emperor was to free the state from the control of religious orthodoxy. In his role as court historian, Abul Fazl both shaped and articulated the ideas associated with the reign of Akbar. Beginning in 1589, Abul Fazl worked on the Akbarnama for 13 years, repeatedly revising the draft. The chronicle is based on a range of sources, including actual records of events, wakai, official documents, and oral testimonies of knowledgeable persons. The Akbarnama is divided into three books, of which the first two are chronicles. The third book is Ain-i-Akbari. The first volume contains the history of mankind from Adam to one celestial cycle of Akbar's life, 30 years. The second volume closes in 46th regnal year, 1601 of Akbar. The very next year, Abul Fazl fell victim to a conspiracy hatched by Prince Salim and was murdered by his accomplice Veer Singh Bundela. The Akbarnama was written to provide a detailed description of Akbar's reign in the traditional diachronic sense of recording politically significant events across time, as well as in the more novel sense of giving a synchronic picture of all aspects of Akbar's empire geographic, social, administrative, and cultural without reference to chronology. In the Ain-i-Akbari, the Mughal Empire is presented as having a diverse population consisting of Hindus, Jainas, Buddhists, and Muslim, and a composite culture. A diachronic account traces developments over time, whereas a synchronic account depicts one or several situations at one particular moment or point of time. Abul Fazl wrote in a language that was ornate and which attached importance to diction and rhythm, as texts were often read aloud. This Indo-Persian style was patronized at court, and there were a large number of writers who wanted to write like Abul Fazl. The pupil of Abul Fazl, Abdul Hamid Lahori, is known as the author of the Basanama. Emperor Shah Jahan, hearing of his talents, commissioned him to write a history of his reign modeled on the Akbarnama. The Vasanama is this official history in 3 volumes or daptars of 10 lunar years each. Lahori wrote the first and second daptars comprising the first 2 decades of the emperor's rule. These volumes were later revised by Sadullah Khan, Shah Jahan's wazir. Infirmities of the old age prevented Lahori from proceeding with the third decade, which was then chronicled by the historian Waris. Travels of the Vasanama. Gifting of precious manuscript was an established diplomatic custom under the Mughals. In emulation of this, the Nawab of Awadh gifted the illustrated Vasanama to King George III in 1799. Since then, it has been preserved in the English Royal Collections, now at Windsor Castle. In 1994, conservation work required the bound manuscript to be taken apart. This made it possible to exhibit the paintings in 1997 for the first time. The Basanama paintings were shown in exhibition in New Delhi, London, and Washington. During the colonial period, British administration began to study Indian history and to create an archive of knowledge about the subcontinent to help them better understand the people and the culture of the empire. They sought to rule. The Ascetic Society of Bengal, founded by Sir William Jones in 1784, undertook the editing, printing, and translation of many Indian manuscripts. Edited versions of the Akbarnama and Basanama were first published by the Ascetic Society in the 19th century. In the early 20th century, the Akbarnama was translated into English by Henry Beveridge after years of hard labor. Only excerpts of Vasanama have been translated into English to date. The text in its entirety still awaits translation. The Ideal Kingdom, a Divine Light. Court chronicles drew upon many sources to show the power of the Mughal kings came directly from God. One of the legends they narrated was that of the Mongol queen Alanqua, who was impregnated by a ray of sunshine while resting in her tent. The offspring she bore carried this divine light and passed it on from generation to generation. Abul Fazl placed Mughal kingship as the highest station in the hierarchy of objects receiving light emanating from God, Farah Izzadi. Here he was inspired by a famous Iranian Sufi, Shihabuddin Swaravadi, who first developed this idea. According to this idea, there was a hierarchy in which the divine light was transmitted to the king, who then became the source of spiritual guidance for his subjects. The transmission of notions of luminosity. The origins of Suharavadi's philosophy went back to Plato's Republic, where God is represented by the symbol of the sun. Suharavadi's writings were universally read in the Islamic world. They were studied by Sheikh Mubarak, who transmitted their ideas to his sons Faizi and Abul Fazl, who were trained under him. Paintings that accompanied the narrative of the chronicles transmitted these ideas in a way that left a lasting impression on the minds of viewers. Mughal artists from the 17th century onwards began to portray emperors wearing the halo which they saw on European paintings of Christ and the Virgin Mary to symbolize the light of God. A unifying force. Mughal chronicles present the empire as comprising many different ethnic and religious communities Hindus, Jainas, Zoroastrians, and Muslims. As the source of all peace and stability, the emperor stood above all religious and ethnic groups, mediated among them, and ensured that justice and peace prevailed. Abul Fazl describes the ideal of Sul-i-Kul, absolute peace, as the cornerstone of the enlightened rule. In Sul-i-Kul, all religions and schools of thought had freedom of expression, but on condition that they did not undermine the authority of the state or fight among themselves. The ideal of Sulai-Kul was implemented through state policies. The nobility under the Mughals was a composite one comprising Iranis, Turians, Afghans, Rajputs, Deccanis, all of whom were given position and awards purely on the basis of their service and loyalty to the king. Further, Akbar abolished the tax on pilgrimage in 1563 and jizya in 1564 as the two were based on religious discrimination. Instructions were sent to officers of the empire to follow the precept of Sul-i-Kul in administration. All Mughal emperors gave grants to support the building and maintenance of places of worship. Even when temples were destroyed during war, grants were later issued for their repair. As we know from the reigns of Shahjahan and Aurangzeb, however, during the reign of the latter, the jizya was reimposed on non-Muslim subjects. Just sovereignty as social contract. Abul Fazl defines sovereignty as a social contract. The emperor protects the four essence of his subjects, namely life, jan, property, mal, honor, namas, and faith, deen, and in return demands obedience and share of resources. Only just sovereigns were thought to be able to honor the contract with power and divine guidance. A number of symbols were created for visual representation of the idea of justice, which came to stand for the highest virtue of Mughal monarchy. One of the favorite symbols used by artists was the motif of the lion and the lamb or goat, peacefully nestling next to each other. This was meant to signify a realm where both the strong and the weak could exist in harmony. Quote scenes from the illustrated Barsanama place such motifs in a niche directly below the emperor's throne. Capitals and courts. Capital cities. The heart of the Mughal Empire was its capital city, where the court assembled. The capital cities of the Mughal frequently shifted during the 16th and 17th century. Babur took over the Lodi capital of Agra, though during the 4 years of his reign, the court was frequently on the move. During the 1560s, Akbar had the fort of Agra constructed with red sandstone quarried from the adjoining regions. In the 1570s, he decided to build a new capital, Fatehpur Sikri, one of the reasons prompting this may have been that Sikri was located on the direct road to Ajmer, where the Dargah of Sheikh Muinuddin Chishti had become an important pilgrimage center. The Mughal emperors entered into a close relationship with Sufis of the Chishti Silsila. Akbar commissioned the construction of a white marble tomb of Sheikh Salim Chishti next to the majestic Friday Mosque at Sikri. The enormous arched gateway Buland Darwaza was meant to remind visitors of the Mughal victory in Gujarat. In 1585, the capital was transferred to Lahore to bring the northwest under greater control, and Akbar closely watched the frontier for 13 years. Shahjahan pursued sound fiscal policies and accumulated enough money to indulge his passion for building. Building activity in monarchical cultures, as you have seen in the case of earlier rulers, was the most visible and tangible sign of dynastic power, wealth, and prestige. In the case of Muslim rulers, it was also considered an act of pity. In 1648, the court, army, and household moved from Agra to the newly completed imperial capital Shahjahanabad. It was a new addition to the old residential city of the Delhi with the Red Fort, the Jama Masjid, a tree-lined esplanade with bazaars, Chandni Chowk, and spacious homes for the nobility. Shahjahan's new city was appropriate to a more formal vision of a grand monarchy. The Mughal court. The physical arrangement of the court focused the sovereign mirrored his status as the heart of the society. A centerpiece was therefore the throne, the takht, which gave physical form to the function of the sovereign as axis mundi. The canopy, a symbol of kingship in India for a millennium, was believed to separate the radiance of the sun from that of the sovereign. Axis mundi is a Latin phrase for a pillar or a pole that is visualized as the support of the earth. Chronicles lay down with great precision the rules defining status amongst the Mughal elites. In court, status was determined by spatial proximity to the king. The place accorded to a courtier by the ruler was a sign of his importance in the eyes of the emperor. Once the emperor sat on the throne, no one was permitted to move from his position or to leave without permission. Social control in the court society was exercised through carefully defining in full detail the forms of address, courtesies, and speech which were acceptable in court. The slightest infringement of etiquette was noticed and punished on the spot. Darbar-i-Akbari. Abul Fazl gives a vivid account of Akbar's Darbar. Whenever His Majesty Akbar holds court Darbar, a large drum is beaten, the sounds of which are accompanied by divine praise. In this manner, people of all classes receive notice. His Majesty's son and grandchildren, the grandees of the court, and all other men who have admittance attend to make the cornice and remain standing in their proper places. Learned men of renown and skillful mechanics pay their respect, and the officers of justice present their reports. His Majesty, with his usual insights, gives orders and settles everything in a satisfactory manner. During the whole time, skillful gladiators and wrestlers from all countries hold themselves in readiness, and singers, male and female, are in waiting. Clever jugglers and funny tumblers also are anxious to exhibit their dexterity and agility. Cornice was a form of ceremonial salutation in which the courtier placed the palm of his right hand against his forehead and bent his head. It suggested that the subject placed his head, the seat of the senses and the mind, into the hand of humility, presenting it to the royal assembly. The forms of salutation to the ruler indicated the person's status in hierarchy. Deeper prostration represented higher status. The highest form of submission was sijda or complete prostration. Under Shahjahan, these rituals were replaced with Jahar Taslim and Jamin Bos kissing the ground. Jahar Taslim is a mode of salutation which begins with placing the back of the right hand on the ground and raising it gently till the person stands erect. When he puts the palm of his right hand upon the crown of his head. It is done 4 times. Thus, military remains submission. The protocols governing diplomatic envoys at the Mughal court were equally explicit. An ambassador presented to the Mughal emperor was expected to offer an acceptable form of greeting, either by bowing deeply or kissing the ground, or else to follow the Persian custom of clasping one's hand in front of the chest. Thomas Roe, the English envoy of James I, simply bowed before Jahangir according to European custom and further shocked the court by demanding a chair. The emperor began his day at sunrise with personal religious devotion or prayers and then appeared on a small balcony, the Jharoka facing the east. Below, a crowd of people, soldiers, merchants, craftspersons, peasants, women with 6 children, waited for a view the son of the emperor. Jharoka Darshan was introduced by Akbar with the objective of broadening the acceptance of the imperial authority as part of popular faith. Sahab-i-Barat is the full moon night on the 14th Saban, the 8th month of the Hijri calendar, and is celebrated with prayers and fireworks in the subcontinent. It is the night when the destinies of the Muslim for the coming year are said to be determined and sins forgiven. The Jeweled Throne. This is how Shahjahan's jeweled throne, Takht-i-Murasa, in the hall of public audience in the Agra Palace, is described in the Basanama. This gorgeous structure has a canopy supported by 12-sided pillars and measures 5 cubits in height from the flight of steps to the overhanging dome. On His Majesty's coronation, he had commanded that 86 lakh worth of gems and precious stones and 1 lakh tolas of gold worth another 14 lakhs should be used in decorating it. The throne was completed in the course of 7 years, and among the precious stones used upon it was a ruby worth 1 lakh of rupees. The Shah Abbas Safavi had sent to the late Emperor Jahangir, and on this ruby were inscribed the names of the great emperor Temur Sahib I Kiran, Mirza Shahrukh, Mirza Ulugh Beg, and Shah Abbas, as well as the names of the emperors Akbar, Jahangir, and that of His Majesty himself. After spending an hour at the Jharoka, the emperor walked to the public hall of audience, Diwan-i-Am, to conduct the primary business of his government. State officials presented reports and made requests. 2 hours later, the emperor was in the Diwan-i-Khas to hold private audiences and discuss confidential matters. High ministers of the state placed their petition before him, and tax officials presented their accounts. Occasionally, the emperor viewed the works of highly reputed artists or building plans of architects or mimar. On special occasions such as the anniversary of accession to the throne, Eid, Sahab-i-Barat, and Holi, the court was full of life. Perfumed candles set in rich holders and palace's wall festooned with colorful hangings made a tremendous impression on visitors. The Mughal king celebrated 3 major festivals a year: the solar and lunar birthdays of the monarch and Nowruz, the Iranian New Year on the vernal equinox. On his birthday, the monarch was weighed against various commodities which were then distributed in charity. Titles and gifts. Grand titles were adopted by the Mughal emperors at the time of coronation or after a victory over an enemy. High sounding and rhythmic, they created an atmosphere of awe in the audience when announced by ushers Nakib. Mughal coins carried the full title of the reigning emperor with regal protocol. The granting of titles to the man of merit was an important aspect of Mughal polity. A man's ascent in the court hierarchy could be traced through the titles he held. The title Asaf Khan for one of the highest ministers originated with Asaf, the legendary minister of the prophet King Suleiman or Solomon. The title Mirza Raja was accorded by Aurangzeb to his 2 highest ranking nobles, Jai Singh and Jaswant Singh. Titles could be earned or paid, for Mir Khan offered rupees 1 lakh to Aurangzeb for the letter Alif, that is A, to be added to his name to make it Amir Khan. Other awards included the Robe of Honor, Khilat, a garment once worn by the emperor and imbued with his benediction. One gift the Sarapa had to foot consisted of a tunic, a turban, and a sash pataka. Jeweled ornaments were often given as gifts by the emperor. The lotus blossom set with jewels, Padma Mursa, was given only in exceptional circumstances. A courtier never approached the emperor empty-handed. He offered either a small sum of money, nazar, or a large amount, peskas. In diplomatic relations, gifts were regarded as a sign of honor and respect. Ambassadors performed the important function of negotiating treaties and relationships between competing political powers. In such a context, gifts had an important symbolic role. Thomas Roe was disappointed when a ring he had presented to Asaf Khan was returned to him for the reason that it was worth merely 400 rupees. सो एवरीवन, आज के लिए ये चैप्टर हम यहीं तक रखते हैं. इसको हम कल के सेशन में कंप्लीट करेंगे. और आज का सेशन ज्वाइन करने के लिए थैंक यू. हर रोज़ लाइव सेशन ज्वाइन करने के लिए चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए और बेल आइकन पर क्लिक कर दीजिए. थैंक यू. थैंक्स फॉर ज्वाइनिंग.